Did that happen already, or next
Sold
week?
out.
And it's sold out, right?
Sold out.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, it looks like we're looking forward to some exciting events. The talks for HackMiami have been selected. For all of you who actually submitted, thank you very much. We got, again, a lot of talks, and we're going to have a great conference this year. If anybody has anything else that is relevant to the community, uh, anything right now, or we're good to go? So I'm going to speak today about the SMS as Cryptocoin attack vector. And we're going to have, I believe we have the honor of having my Jewish twin brother right here, Jason Mali, one of the initial funders or the initial big guys at first core of HackMiami, and he's going to talk to us today about the crypto coin market.
Yeah, okay.
Well, but not yet. Well, I'll leave you. I'll give you the floor to close. Is that fine or not? Or you just came to say hi? Okay, because there is an expectation that you would talk. Okay. All right. There were some messages in Slack indicating that they wanted to hear you. So we're looking forward to see what you're going to show. All right, so the reason why I did this is because I noticed that obviously, as everybody was talking about the crypto coin, a lot of the cybercrime, malware, and malicious actors started targeting crypto coin users and exchanges. So I wrote a threat advisory in my job. Which unfortunately I cannot publish because it was TLP Amber. For those who are new and don't know what TLP is, it's called Traffic Light Protocol. And the Traffic Light Protocol is amber, green, and red. Green means likely that you can share it with everybody. Amber, usually you should share it with certain people. And red, only a specific entity can see it. It's almost like classified. So you shouldn't share it, right? So this was a TLP Amber report. So it was because some of the sensitive the sensitive nature of the attack vectors, but I was able to get a lot of it, and I'm going to show today, mostly using open source information. Most of you know about this. I just know what it is, put it together. We've been looking at this for a while. We have a lot of chatter, including members that have been victim, actually, of this. But not only you can use what I'm going to share today for crypto. I know we're all into the crypto thing, but you can use this for yourself. In fact, as I was doing this, you remember this guy? You don't know who this guy is? No? It's Mark Karpelis, founder of Mongox. Founder of Mount Gox.
Magic the Gathering online exchange.
Exactly, there you go. We got an old school right here. So he started that site, and that site was about the sharing of, go back, the sharing of cards. Magic cards.
Magic the Gathering.
Exactly, Magic the Gathering, right? It was based in Japan, and then all of a sudden, they decided to start trading Bitcoin, right? I was part of the team that defended. We're already out of that company, so we can say it. Mount Gox.
Oops.
Now remember, we did perimeter. We did not do internals or whatever happened. They were assholes. They will tweet like, we're down because of your company, and send nasty emails. Like this guy and his whatever was around, they were not nice to us, and they were known as jerks. And he can come to me if he wants after he sees that. He's probably in jail right now. So what I'm trying to say is that what's going on with the crime and the shadiness and the really not trustworthy nature of the crypto coin dynamic of this, it's not new. Because you will see soon that this guy lost 430 million of Bitcoin. Right? That was back then. Right? We're talking what, $20, $30? Imagine how much is that now. Right? So here's some of the exchanges. Since then, the crypto market has evolved, and there's many people joining. And I heard horrible things about some of these exchanges. I'm not going to point at them, but these are, to my knowledge, the biggest traders. Am I correct? We got an expert here.
I'm not an expert, but
Well,
there's
but-
some issues with Bitfinex for sure.
Okay.
And pulling extras to customers
Some
who
of the
just
exchanges you can't put cash in there, right?
Kraken you can, GDAX you can.
Okay, so for those who are watching, somebody said that some, Jason just said that in some of this, you cannot really put cash. Natalie said in some of them you can, right?
Some of them you can.
Okay. I think in the ones that you can put cash, you have to put your social security and everything,
Oh
right?
yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
bank
because they're
account.
considered money exchange.
Yeah.
Oh, that is, okay. So the reason why I put this here is so you understand that we have come from a place that used to do Magic the Gathering, right? Anybody knows what Magic the Gathering is? Or we're too old? Are we too old? Are we too old? Okay, so we're going from Magic the Gathering to a Cryptocoin exchange that apparently it was mainly for hardcore early adopters. Like, I remember some people in HackMiami paying 10 Bitcoins for a Whopper on Hollywood Boulevard. I remember that. We were part of this, and we had no idea what was going to happen. Sometimes I look back and there's like a conflict of what it could have been, right? Because I had spent more money in bullshit than what I spent at Bitcoin, what it was for. So I just needed to spend, I don't know. I bought a TV that I never used, $500. How much money would I have right now? So you look back and you say, dude, you had it right there, and it went away.
That's the myth. A lot of people think that people that started in crypto years ago when Bitcoin was like, $1 or 10 cents,
Right.
like they're millionaires now. But that's not really what happened. There's a point where you're like, oh wow, this is worth $20,000. I'm going to cash out.
Right.
By
Exactly.
the way, anything she says, listen. She's sure. Really solid
Well,
insights.
well, also
on
remember,
Crypto channel.
yes, she
Is
is.
everybody on here, by the way? Anybody's interested in announcing about the crypto channel?
Oh yeah, there's a cryptocurrency channel in Slack that you should join.
Very active.
Yeah, very active.
A lot of knowledgeable folks or people of all different levels. I think a lot of this is way over my head. Anytime I've asked a question, they've been really kind. And it's super helpful for a new, so definitely recommend it.
Also remember, between Mt. Gox and this, at one point the feds went hard against the cryptocurrency community. And many people are still in jail, by the way. And I believe there will be a second wave out of this. I'm sure there's grand juries already, mostly with those ICOs, those shady ICOs that a lot of people lost money. I am sure there is a crack coming. No crash, crack from the feds. May happen, may not.
There's a meeting next week between some government agencies to discuss how they're.
Oh yeah, because this is, the stories of horror, how people get simply ripped off. Like they go and buy coins, the coins disappear, or they get charged fees, or the wallets don't work. I mean, this is rampant and needs to be stopped. So I know for the hardcore crypto people, I am a naysayer, blah blah blah, and I might be. Even when in 2010, we were a few cats, right? We gave away Bitcoin. Remember, we gave it away. It was a gift. It was a gift. I got Bitcoin for free. They're like, yeah.
We have a flash.
We had a CTS, but we gave half a Bitcoin, right? Which today will be $5,000. So what you needed to do was to break into a SUS command and control center. That's it, $5,000. Imagine that. It was free. It was nothing. Nobody ever imagined, at least myself, that Bitcoin was going to get what it was. So when I see people so excited, I'm like, dude, I never thought this was going to happen. So Cryptocoin has a very large history or cryptocurrency or climate losses. And see, here's some of them. That gentleman that I showed you, the Mt. Gox, is 473, correction, million in Bitcoin. One day he came up and said, whoops, I lost all this money. It's not there, but Bitcoin also was part of a lot of the Silk Road investigation. And there was a rumor that the Feds were buying a lot of BTC, trying to understand and track people. There's always been a shroud of secrecy and suspicion and paranoia because obviously you have something that is regulated, decentralized, partially anonymous, because it's not really that anonymous anymore, to be honest. Obviously, the law enforcement would like to see what's going on here. By the way, we were on one of the first conferences ever to take Bitcoin. And I think there was one only ticket. There was one ticket, so it was something like, symbolic. Say, yeah, we take Bitcoin. We're talking about what, 2012, 2013? So it was really, this was like I don't know, like changing cars. This was never meant to be an asset at itself or money. That's now the lawyers and the finance people that are just trying to twist this and see how to get money from.
Right.
Yep.
If I just plug the books channel as well, there's a really awesome book called American Kingpin about the whole investigation of the Silk Road, and it was like I couldn't even put it down. Super good.
Yes, good. That is a great book.
Awesome book, and then our very own Manny has a review of it on his book blog.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, I'll put it here. I'll put it here. Yeah, I heard of Kingpin, yeah. I think I read it. I just forgot about it.
Audiobook. I listened to the audiobook, and it was like watching a thriller. All real.
So here's some of the lists. We have the Bitstamp hack, 5.1 million, 50 million, Bitfinex. That's you talk about, right? Is that the one you were talking about? 72 million in BTC, CoinDash, 7 million Ethereum, CoinCheck hack, 530. This might be the biggest one ever. Remember, these are not regulated institutions, so if it got stolen, you're on your own. You're SOL. Another example: 3 weeks ago, we heard by a chatter that in countries like Korea, they were willing to give you 10, even up to 20% of their crypto because they couldn't get fiat, which is the irony. The irony was that the objective was to eliminate fiat, right? And now you have people giving away crypto to get fiat because Korea, for example, shut down the exchanges. China is regulating it. Australia it was canceling a lot of transactions. So obviously there is some of the establishment is threatened. There is some of it. I'm sure if I was in the bank, I would look at this as a disruptive and possibly threatening technology. But unfortunately, there's a lot of, due to the unregulated nature, there's a lot of crime. We're about to see that right now. So,
just to put in perspective, the 530 million, I was just Googling, the largest bank heist of all time is $63 million. Antwerp Diamond Heist, and there's an awesome book about that called Flawless, also available in audio. That was $100 million.
So it was 100 million. That's the biggest bank heist.
The biggest ever in history. Aside from, I think there's maybe like, it's a little bit more like Saddam Hussein than like.
Right.
So this is 5 times.
5 times, exactly.
It's not even.
Exactly. 5 times. So obviously there are real life effects of all this money that's being lost, right? Obviously, if you're targeting or you're trying to get Bitcoin, this is nothing new. Even Metasploit has a wallet.dat module that looks for it. Actually, there's I believe it's an interpreter post that looks for wallet.dat because people will even leave their wallets unencrypted. The end user has always been targeted. The breaking and putting miners into stuff, servers that has happened before. It has just evolved. We now have things like cryptojacking, the coin hive, code that's running in so many places. But usually when you refer to the end user, you're looking either their mobile, their computer, and wherever they go to put these exchanges or interact with the exchanges. The password, obviously, it had proven to be inefficient, can be broken, can be guessed, can be reset. And the most popular multi-factor authentication that we're using right now is SMS. So here's some of the main attack vectors for SMS. The first one that I put here was Trojans via App Store, right? So you publish an application. The application, we all know, Android tends to be very generous on the permissions they give to the applications. Application goes, reach the data, reach your SMS data. All what they need to do is type it, and they might be able to get the code and access or reset your account. Here's the fake. This is a fake Netflix. That was the case. I think this is Malwarebytes who did this investigation. That's one. We all know that the SMS can be extracted. I've done this. I actually did a live demonstration of hacking a phone and getting all the SMS. This can be done. Not only you don't have to go as far as just publishing an application. You can compromise a phone and actually extract them. We also have, obviously, this is very well known as well, a computer Trojan. You can use either a keylogger. Another example is a code injection. I did a threat advisory back then when I was at HackMiami, where basically the code detects when you are at the bank. The code already, let me just say it this way. The attackers have already looked at the code of your bank page. They have created accounts. They have looked at the code. So when they put the client, right, or the Trojan or the malware code, and it detects that you're going to your bank, it injects code that shows fields or forms to put multi-factor authentication and use that to log in, right? In fact, this is also another investigation that I did it was called the Jumba Web Index. It was part of the SUS Trojan Bank, whereas the user will log in the bank, the session will be hijacked, the account will be empty, yet the code would leave the same amount as the session was going, so the user will never figure out that the amount changed. This was done, by the way. This can be done. We sort of got in trouble because there was a Canadian bank that was discovered in the code. They got pretty mad at us, and well, I guess it's their problem. Another attack vector. This has been shown in Europe. Caveat. I'm going to show you some equipment. You need to know that if you do this in the United States, you're committing a felony and you can be arrested. This is an example of SSS7, which is one of the protocols that is used in cell phone transmission, where they can actually get the codes or can get the information that's being transmitted to the phone.
Why don't they fix this?
Huh?
They did not fix it.
Why don't they fix it?
Because it requires a brand new cell phone infrastructure.
So
There you go.
So they think about doing a 5G, but the thing is, SS7 is designed to get the strongest signal at the closest tower.
So, but the thing is, it's still prevalent even in 5G. Like,
Okay, so the answer to your question is that, and I was
Could
just
you-
actually at an internal
Can you
conference.
show him? Can you not do it?
Everything, any kind of cell phone standardization has to go through the GSMA, which are the global standards. So in order to operate a network, you have to truly be on GSM and within license spectrum, and you need to be fully interoperable with all of the other countries in the world. And they have to allow roaming, and you have to be able to run on their network. Really outrageous rates to get as big as at least be capable. So you're gonna have to simultaneously get interoperability from like random countries in sub-Saharan Africa, very poor countries in the Eastern Bloc, all at the same time. So that it has to be a global standard that's changed. All these holes are totally there. They're prevalent. They're happening, and they're trying. Their Mobile World Congress is coming up, and there'll be discussions about this very thing. Definitely will be discussions about this happening and how can they, as a whole, work on it. But it's because everybody has to be all doing it in sync, and it's a major upgrade globally. And nobody wants to spend the money on the new infrastructure, and the HLR, HSS, and actual physical infrastructure. It's millions of dollars in upgrades to change the physical hardware out to do this.
I would say that basically the answer it will never be fixed.
The solution is still required more money than what's the
The solution is you feel to be essentially factor that you use SMS that you.
Right, I will get to that in a minute. There are ways to bypass that. I will show that, and I will tell you a corporate. I gotta be careful because I don't want that company to get upset at me. But there's a very popular multi-factor authentication tool that can be bypassed as well. So here's an example. You've probably seen this at DEFCON. You can get this for 2 Bitcoins. Right? They may even give you the backpack. This is a IMSI catcher. Can anybody here that is an expert on that tell us what that is? Okay, please. Okay.
All right, so we have a couple different identification vectors on a cellular network. So you have your VISDIN, which is in essence, usually it's the same thing as your phone number, okay? Now an IoT device can also have a VISDIN, and then it may be publicly non-dialable. If anybody remembers the Jeep hack, where folks were able to remotely control the Jeep about 2 years ago. Some of them were from our community actually, and then got hired at Uber as Jeep security folks. That was done because there were publicly dialable numbers on an IoT device. So as a result, you could send malicious AT commands via SMS to the modem and hijack and override it. So your IMSI is an identification number that's internal to the cellular network. It's semi-secret. Anybody in a retail store, generally at least at the time, when I was at a large operator, you could go in and see it on the user's account, so it's not completely protected. But that identification number is what interconnects the traffic on the back end of the cellular network. And when law enforcement has that, Stingray is the main vendor that does this, is main device for a company called Harris. They used to be $2 million for a van full of equipment for the FBI, and now there are wearable versions. The Freedom of Information Act and some of the WikiLeaks and other stuff has released information about this. Manuals, user guides that have been very secretly held under wraps. They're now available online for some of the equipment. EFF and ACLU is tracking law enforcement agencies that are using these because a lot of them are operating without warrants, and it's a gray area. So in essence, though, the IMSI is like your secret, unique subscriber identification that goes alongside your ICC ID number, which is on the SIM card itself.
Also, Stingrays, every police agency in Florida has access to one because Harrisburg is out of Cocoa Beach. And so, yeah, they are a Florida company. Used to be a wholly owned subsidiary of Tyco.
Oh,
There's
wow.
tax incentives too. They're basically just giving them away in Florida. They're just throwing them out like candy. And there's
Okay, of course, we might be
More interestingly-
right now.
Without question, like there's probably cops that have drove past, just parked outside there and intercepted our cell phones. Why not?
So-
It's in a gray area legislatively right now.
The
It's
two
happening
questions
all
I have spawning from that are, number one, you're saying I can buy one myself.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Well, but this
turn it
is,
on without a license.
you can't buy like the Harris model, right? But
Right.
what has happened now is there used to be the secret code. I was at HAR, Hacking at Random, in 2009 in the Netherlands. It's a fantastic conference put on in conjunction with the CCC. And this guy got up, and he was just this like quiet little guy. He's like, I want to break GSM encryption. And he's like, yeah, haha, whatever. Within 3 months, I think he broke it because he got a team of people running GPUs to break the algorithm for GSM, 2G GSM.
So the question I have is, the second part is, for a GSM catcher, sure, I get the IMSI. What data does it get along with that?
Well, okay, before I answer that question, finishing your first question, what's happened now, you get these network extenders, which are basically femtocells. You don't have coverage at your house, you call up your phone company, complain they're going to try to sell your box for $300, you escalate to the supervisors, they give it to you for free. Now that has all of the instructions because that is running off of Ethernet. Okay, it's a base station, and then it is sending out a cell phone signal just within the radius of a cordless phone or a Wi-Fi router. Now, all that data is in the hands of random hackers for $300. I had a conversation with Travis Goodspeed in like 2011, and he's like, "Oh yeah, no, we broke WiMAX, we broke LTE." This is 2011. So now at DEF CON, people walk around with these backpacks, lithium-powered batteries powering a hacked femtocell. It is illegal. There was someone right outside. I think Rod was there 2 years ago at DEF CON. There was somebody right outside there. They own cellular, and all of a sudden, we know who it is. Come talk to me. I'm not going to say it in public. But there was a certain FBI agent that's in the community that owned these folks, and they're going to go to prison. At least they went to federal prison for at least a few years as a result. So it's easy to do, but it's heavily punished. It's not like hacking Wi-Fi.
Right. So just so you know, there are some tools that
You got the rainbow tables at .com. Bring 6 gig hard drive.
There are some tools that are low cost. You know, that have all this RF something, soys. Some of them can do some of it. You can build your own. It's right here, by the way. If you Google, build your own IMSI catcher, you will see blogs that tell you exactly what you need. I'm going to give this caveat again. Interfering with the federal inspector is a felony, which will probably get you in prison, just like those gentlemen that he was talking about. Let's continue. All right, so
To answer the question, that somebody did, the researchers in a laboratory environment, even though it's technically illegal, they made a giant variation group. It was DEF CON talking about it. They used the femtocell to monitor all sorts of crazy stuff that you can't pick up over Wi-Fi that your cell phone's sending out about you. And there was the whole Steve Jobs controversy years ago, where someone was like, either the Mac gate or whatever it was, where you were getting all the difference. There's tons of personal data that's going out of the cellular network. And they're doing that shadily because you can't capture that traffic on Wi-Fi, and most people aren't going to build a laboratory femtocell and intercept the cellular traffic. So there's crazy amounts of personal data that's going out.
if you walk around either B-size or Defcon, you will see them. You'll see people like. Sometimes they even blog it. I remember looking at it like, what the hell is that? Right? So I got compromised like this. I was actually waiting for my ticket for DEFCON at the Caesar Palace. And my signal went from like 2 bars to full. I had everything. I'm like, wow. This is great. What a great hotel. You got service. And then, somebody went to seglist.org and said, guess what? I got you, all of you, in Vegas last month. I had never discovered who did that, but they were doing it, right? So
the most common attack vector is going to be on 2G or 3G. The cellular companies still, because of E911 compliance, are backhauling their information. They have to be able to backhaul SMS and voice over 2G for GSM, over 1XRTP for CDMA. And that is because somebody sitting with an old phone needs to be able to dial 911 before they fully sunset that technology. So as a result, one of these femtocells can tell you, oh, I'm the strongest tower. Right now, you pass stations that only have access to 2G signal. 2G was cracked years ago. In your phone, in an area where you clearly should have LTE, drop down to 2G, drop down to 1XRTP, Verizon, that's potential red flag. Not as many tools available for iOS unless it's jailbroken. On Android, there are a lot of tools available to see cell site IDs. You can pair them with people who are mapping out this is a legit cell site. There's like a crowdsourced type of an ecosystem that you can use to compare what you're connecting against others, and you're potentially blacklist connecting to Android, so you're not connecting into rogue cell sites. So it is possible to protect yourself. You have to be reading for most of that though.
This year at DEF CON, I noticed that my phone was in 1X at least 15 or 20 times. I'm aware of that, so I was like, oh, 1X again.
So on an Android phone, you can generally utility will lock you with LTE only. There are funny legitimate times when you're in a tall building, whatever, 1X is better propagation of lower frequencies deeper into buildings. So it's not always needing your phone. There is a way to lock it LTE only in a couple of Android utilities that like support those and post about it.
And the second
If
thing
you also have Wi-Fi calling, just backhaul your shit over.
But the second thing I'd like to point out is, so for me, I use PIA, API has a feature that says, hey, only go ahead and allow your phone to have internet traffic if you're on VPN. But the problem is, a lot of internal OS-y things on your phone will not listen to those requirements,
Especially on iOS.
and they will bypass some of those things. So just because you think that you have a VPN and you're able to get around that, there may be internal functions in your phone that are still going to route out that do not go out your VPN.
And most of the trickery and the fuckery that happens is within the baseband. And if anybody's ever jailbroken an iPhone, you need to download a customized baseband. A lot of that is secret sauce, and it's a black box because there's proprietary carrier operations and stuff that they don't want you, multiple carriers don't want them to find out about. So there's plenty of craziness that you can't patch it. You have the ability to run flow analysis. A lot of this happens as a result of vulnerabilities in the baseband. You look at vendors like HackMiami and and even some of the like Rockwell Collins and Lockheed Martin have divisions that are actively selling vulnerabilities in nation states within the basement.
We got top notch here. I mean, you couldn't get better than this. Thank you. This is an insight that you just don't get that easy. Right? So, expensive? You think it's expensive? I mean, you'll get back your investment pretty quick, I would think, right? You just need to get somebody's 1 or 2 Bitcoins. That's pretty quick. You pay already for the equipment. So it's really not expensive. So here is one of the most scary ones. Port to all. By the way, I'm not accusing Metro PCS.
So this is gonna hire occurrence.
Right. Okay.
We just look at demographics and perhaps affect neighborhoods.
Right.
Cheaper cell phone service.
Right. This is about to get interesting. And let me just give you a caveat. I'm not accusing Metro PCS of anything. I'm just saying I found that picture. Right? I found that picture. It could have been another vendor, but I found that picture. Port to own. Port to own is a very scary and, in my opinion, a devastating attack. So this is what's going on. Of this port to own is people that are going on social media and saying they're making money. If you do some research, a lot of what happens in some of the campaigns, they were actively grabbing, BTC, I made a lot of money immediately. They put you on a list, and now they pre-text you. So, with the information of pre-texting, again, your name, where you live, your domain, where you work, maybe some family data that you have Facebook public, some of your friends attack you, and now the pictures are seen. Now I know you went to a party in a certain time. Now I know you dated somebody. Well, guess what? They proceed to call the carriers. And once they call the carriers, they port the phone. You know what porting is, right? Porting means I have a phone, right, with a carrier, and then I'm able to move that phone number to another SIM in another carrier. So once they port the phone, they will go and reset every single account that you have. And the way they do this is when you are flying, or you're sleeping, or you said that you're in a conference and you cannot be talked to. Right? So many people woke up in the morning with a no signal message. Right? Now think about the consequences of this. How many phones? Here we're hackers, so everybody has probably 2 or 3 phones, right? But what if you only have one? What if you don't have a landline? How many of you have landlines here? Landlines? Oh wow, awesome. You're probably paying premium, by the way, because they're charging more. Okay. Okay, well, but you have a backup, let's put it that way. Okay, so that's cool. At least he can call the carrier. But if you only have a cell phone and you have one, what you gonna do? You have to drive. And now you're gonna have to prove whoever you're gonna see in that dealership that you are who you are and they need to return your phone. I don't even think is that possible? I don't think so.
So, all right, a couple of thoughts on this. In 1996, there was something passed called the Member Portability Act that was tied into a couple of other pieces of legislation at the time. There were monopolistic practices regionally by different cellular operators because they owned your phone number along with the service. You want to switch to a different provider, they would keep your phone number, and that was a major incentive. So there was heavy legislation put in place because the telco lobbies were pushing against this. They wanted to keep that stronghold. And now there's a lot of compliance that needs to occur in order to allow for the interoperability of portability. So telcos are very afraid to get fined lots of money or sued or in legislative hot water if they don't make it easy for you to port your number. If it looks in any way like they're interfering for you to move from one carrier to another, that's a problem. So there's one vendor, this old architecture, again, everybody has to be on the same page with interoperability. There are about 200 different MNOs, mobile network operators, versus not even counting MVNOs in the United States. So they all have to upgrade at the same time. Right now it's being used by this third-party vendor, Ericsson, who's done an RFP and they're trying to win. So there maybe are some more protections that would have to be put in place, but for one carrier to say, we're going to secure your phone number better than another, it's very difficult for them to do. It needs to happen through legislative action. So if you see petitions online, push for this. It's something that we're all vulnerable to. So the best thing they can do is put a passcode in. Kind of probably talk about that some of the
There is no way to prevent porting. I'm sorry to tell you this.
It's illegal for a carrier.
Right.
Not to prevent, to impede porting.
To what, sorry?
Not to prevent, to impede porting. Impede meaning.
Okay, yeah, exactly. You cannot impede porting. If the attacker knows enough about you, and even looks physically or whatever you want, there is no way. No way.
Can you port numbers out of Google Voice?
No, well, I was gonna get there. Hold on, let me get there. A normal phone, there is no way to prevent it or impede it.
And even if a carrier wants to, let's say somebody wants to be, we're the hacker MVNO, and we want to, you have a secure number, you can't bring it out, you can't do it, that's illegal, they can't offer that service.
Exactly.
Doesn't T-Mobile have a service right now? I just saw on their website.
Well, that happened 3 days ago. That happened, yes.
Yeah, we'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
that happened 3 days ago, right? Now remember, usually what they would do is they will give you some code.
Right.
But there is a case that I investigated. The attackers used Google Voice from, I think it was Vietnam or a nation country, and they called Verizon, I think it was Verizon, over 60 times in one day. Until the operator said, okay. And that's how it happened. That pretty much tells you, there's no way to stop it. There is no way to stop it. There are ways to delay it. Like, they'll send you a message and say, hey, somebody called saying that you lost. Is that you? Which we're going to see in a minute. But some of this, mostly, if the attacker has pretexted you, and he knows you have hundreds of coins, probably because you went opening your mouth and saying you have all that, I am sorry for you. If you're relaying on an SMS, you're bound to be caught. Right?
How many data breaches are every one of us in this room subjected to where that we didn't even have control of the info to have a data false social security number or whatever. So you say, every problem, you pick my phone, you're the social engineer on the phone. Listen, I don't have any form of identification. I can't go into the retail store because someone stole my wallet. I'll give you my full social, my date of birth, and I'll tell you my favorite, pet's name. And so you escalate to 2 supervisors on their Google Voice number, and then they go, yes, sir, okay, we'll make an exception just this once.
Right.
And then you report it out.
Right.
So it's
Right, and then comes the worst of it, because your life, all our lives are in our phones. That's pretty much it. Now they can download our email, they can reset our banking accounts, they can change our insurance, they can see where we can apply for loans, you name it. Now imagine for a second that you don't have access to any of that. Right? Imagine that you even have apps that open your door or put your car or turn storm your car. I mean, what would you do? So when I was doing this research, I panicked. I said, this cannot happen. It's not that it's not going to, but I'm going to do whatever it takes to prevent this from happening, because this is theft, man. I mean, it would take you have to call the cops, you had to go to the dealer, you have to call your banks. Google will never listen to you. We had somebody here that had a Google account compromise. He took God and his help in order to listen to him. I know there's another account that was, I'm not going to name it, but the domain was...
Don't let your domain expire.
Exactly, the domain expired. Oh, that's another one. The domain expired. And then redirected. Exactly. Ported the domain, downloaded the info, claimed it. Right? We're going to talk about that in a minute. And then we'll see here in a minute.
Matt, were you going to say something?
No, I was just gonna say this commentary people say is if you have nothing to hide, why are you worried about privacy? And this is a perfect example.
This is a perfect example.
On that, don't let your domain expire. Don't let your old business's domain expire and still have a Google account.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So are you going to cover how to prevent that?
Yes, at the end. No, there is wait. There is more. There's still. I'm not even halfway there. There's even more. I'm here to show you how scary is this. So basically, port freeze has shown not to work. Account bins do not work either. Like he says, I got my stuff stolen. Please reset it. Account secret codes. All this stuff has been bypassed. And basically what they do is they hang up and call again. Hang up, call again. Hang up, call again. Until they get somebody that is, I guess, willing to give this away. And then they take over the accounts. And then they reset everything, right? Obviously, the main point of this is we're focusing this on Cryptocoin. But you can use this for Google, you can use this for banks, you can use this for everything. So
just to say, Telmar operated new something infrastructure called OSS and DSS. OSS is operational support systems, DSS is billing support systems. A lot of these licensing and so much of it's very proprietary. Vendors like Intelligence, and there's some others that are used also by cable operators. And a lot of this comes from like the 80s. It's super old, and it's just telcos see it as an expense. They've got a lot of different things for compliance reasons, tax reasons, whatever. So much of the call center's operations and the notes they put on your account and all this are tied to these very archaic systems. They might not have even a way to keep track that, oh, this guy just called in 43 times before this call. Maybe something's a little suspicious, but sometimes they may not even have the capabilities within their system to track that and to throw up red flags.
Exactly. And one of the things that I can conclude out of a lot of this is that the carriers are not ready to contain this. They're not. And I'm not sure if they really care, in all honesty. Because with the amount of money that has been lost, it's enough to sue them. I wouldn't be surprised if they had already been sued. Here's these attack campaigns have been persistent on Cryptocoin owners. And there's been some instances like we just talked about that picture that I found where I didn't know that if you do not protect your phone account, anybody into one of those dealerships can actually look at it. So
even if it is protected, depending on, and there's no standardization, most of the time they walk into a third-party dealer, it displays your passcode on the screen when they put in your phone number and they say, oh, so we need you to verify the passcode. Oh, I forgot it, but I want to spend a lot of money with you and buy some phones now. Hey,
you see that right there, right there.
They can read it
right.
It's not a secret. It's not stored.
So all what you need is you need a little bit of collusion, right? You need probably a dealership that's going bankrupt or owned by organized crime. This happens like this.
And very often no audit trail for the fact that they access the account. Some of the big telcos in corporately owned locations will put that in. They can go in, look at your passcode, close out the account. Nobody ever will know. There's not even any record that has been kept of the fact that this agent ID in this location looked it up. So they're a ghost, and they have your passcode now. You're super thin, and that's what T-Mobile put in place. It's a similar passcode like that. T-Mobile has more authority than retailer versus brick and mortar because of the nature of the business model and any other provider. So they're super vulnerable and they can just go in and bad actor.
Right. So if at this point you're not nervous, I'm not sure what else will make you nervous, right? I remember I stopped and I said, how can I put everything I have right now to I ported my most of my numbers to Google Voice. It's almost impossible. They won't even talk to them, by the way. That's one of the mitigations. We'll go over the mitigations. There's another attack vectors as well. Many applications allow reading SMS outside of the phone. So you can have iMessage, Google Hangouts, for example. So you don't really need to even compromise the phone. You can read the SMS in other applications. So if you can compromise the computer and they're using either iMessage or they're using Hangouts, you will be able to see the SMS. TOTP, right? Time-based one-time passwords. Yes, it's a strong measure. However, there is a app that I can show you after we're not recording that is portable. So you port the number, install the app works. Not sure why. I believe they had fixed that at this point, but basically what they did, now think about this. This was done against a crypto exchange place that they were using TOTP, and they still ported the phone and then reinstalled the app, and it still worked. It's not supposed to do that.
So they mitigated that by saying you can only have one device registered at a time. But I think a few of us got locked down in our own accounts because our phone broke.
Right.
We never registered a new device.
Right.
So
right, but yes, and we looked at that. I mean, you can register technically port the phone, and then you have to port the phone, reset the account, and re-register the device. Right, so you have several steps that you might be able to catch it.
There's still a backup password you have to supply, though.
yeah, if you don't have your backup password, I think you just
Yes, I was going to say that at the end. You remember those codes, the backup codes that Google always tells you need to print this and you don't even care? Well, guess what? You need to print them. Because it's the only way to recover your account. There's nothing else. They won't talk to you. I mean, unless you know somebody that is very, you're lucky enough to have somebody that's a friend that is in one of these companies, you won't get access to it. They don't care. They really don't care.
No, even that, because I've heard stories from Google employees that have had like gotten their passwords. It's a big problem.
Really?
It's very difficult for even employees to get their own.
Oh, there you go.
At that point, your only recourse is to call NSA. Customer service department.
I'm sure the NSA can do everything they want, but they're not going to move a finger for any user, that's losing his life. But no, they're losing everything, right? And we're not. How about the collateral damage, right? When they go to that phone and look at the address and look at notes, you may have passwords for your VPN at your company. You may have the accounts of your daughters, pictures. I mean, it doesn't end. It doesn't end. That's why you have to stop it at the beginning. So here's an example of TOTP. TOTP, which is time-based one-time password algorithms. As of today, that I know, the most resilient app is Google Authenticator. Microsoft Authenticator as well, if you use Microsoft.
And in case Rod's not going to say it, don't use Authy. If you're going to use Authy, disable all of the cloud functionality because it's just a subjective. You use any dishonor certification of that activity used to bypass Authy. And so maybe there's some circumstances where it's a good use case, there's no level of risk of using Authy similar to Authy.
That might or might not be the app that I didn't want to make. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. But yes, there was an app that basically you reinstall it and now it works. That shouldn't be. That shouldn't be possible. You can't do that with Google Authenticator. You have to register. You have to register. I believe that was fixed, by the way.
it is fixed.
It was fixed? Okay, if that's fixed, then
Because
that's
it's Coinbase, yeah.
right.
Coinbase.
Correct. It happened at Coinbase.
I also have to reset my password.
Right.
It was annoying. Yeah, 24 hours them texting you.
Well, but
and
that's
emailing
actually
you and-
great because it gives you a chance to save yourself from being empty, right? So,
So if I could just share my personal experience really quick.
Yeah.
My email, so my phone broke, totally dead. I'm screwed because I had my Authy. Got a new phone. I have my backup password saved. In I keep password manager. It's all Authy. Authy says, hey, you're not allowed to have multiple devices. We send an email to your email so that you can go in there and confirm this. It takes like 24 hours. It doesn't just happen instantly. Well, no. What they do is they send you multiple messages. Hey, we're gonna unlock it, but please confirm. Within 24 hours. So my Proton Mail used two-factor authentication, which was protected by Authy. So I was screwed.
oh wow, right.
So I ended up going to my web host, who they're my DNS, my domain name provider, moving the name servers, sending the email. The two-factor authentication they had was horrible. Obviously, I was able to bypass it, and I was able to resurrect my Authy that way. So
Wow.
just think of that as well. Think of your multiple backups.
Right.
and
No, I
have
think
enough.
that's a very valid point because
Look
yeah.
at what he went through for all that, and think of the audience of most of these companies that would use multi-factor authentication. Think of like your mom or your dad or your grandmother. How are they going to do any of this
Right.
stuff? That is the biggest concern.
Right.
The ability to disable MFA is around user friendliness for mass market folks who aren't going to know how to do any of this kind of stuff. And that's one of the biggest weak points. They don't want to make it too hard because then they've got to support that with tech support for people that get locked out, and they've got angry people that don't even understand what
Right.
it is.
Right, so you can understand now why this is so rampant. And I'm not sure why this has not leaked into other verticals, because it's simply too easy. If you look back at what I've shown you today, you can't stop this. I mean, a criminal that really wants to get you for this, it doesn't take them much to do this. So, here's a little POC of a tool that I researched. Because even when you use MFA, you can still be phished. So there is a tool called, there's a couple of tools. There's an Evil Genetics, and there's another one that works as well, but basically what this does is you need a domain, so the page that you're trying to phish. In this case, the tool already had Google. So as you can see here, this is Google sign in, right? That's my account. That's my domain. I hacked myself on the record. And then, guess what? It sends the code. The page sends the request to the real page, but it stays there, right? Then the tool shows that I skipped that because I didn't want to show it. The tool shows the actual code, and now you can get it. And I just bypasses it.
You get two emails, one legit, one fish, or is it?
So I fish target, right? I target the person, attempt to log in, right? It actually, the page changes, the phishing page changes like you were in the real one, but in the background, sends the request to the original.
Right, that's a real.
To the real one, and then, boom. So now, you have the code. And you have
Have you
bypass.
noticed a lot of sign-in pages like Google and Microsoft have, I guess because they have multiple domains, they change your login page so they make you put the username first.
Right. That's a reason because of this. I mean, but think about it. Okay.
Let me tell you, for a phishing campaign, it makes it a lot harder to clone.
It does. But if I am targeting you and I keep going and simulating and refreshing, eventually I'm going to figure it out. If I have a team of people say, hey, let's catch all these pages and see how can we bypass it. They did it. This is a proof of concept. It's not even I would say it's something developed for a state sponsor or a really extended organized crime organization. So as you can see, can be bypassed. So it's time to move from SMS. That's one of the messages that I want you to take today. There are places like Twitter, for example, that they will allow you to. I'm not sure if it has changed like in the last month or so, but when I checked it, they're still they're still using SMS. That opens the door for the attacks that I just showed you.
And let's say even if carriers get wise and they fix up, it's going to make it harder, but sophisticated threat actors have the capability to hack without being local to you. They can even intercept and you can do stuff on the SS7 network. You can become a carrier, you can do something shady in Canada, so there's other vulnerabilities. And people can track phones that way as well. Your location, your E91 positioning. So there's all sorts of vulnerabilities with the SS7 cellular network.
Two is better than no two, right?
Absolutely, which is what I was going to say. Let's go into it. Here's a mitigation. 2FA is always better than nothing, better than just password. Let's put it that way. But here's some techniques that you can use. You buy a burner phone with a number nobody knows. Right?
Also, I just found out a way to get 5 free SIM cards to use. How many people here have Xfinity Internet? So it comes with their Xfinity wireless service. SIM card has free phone number, free texting. All you need to pay for the data, which you won't. But yeah, you get 5 free phone numbers to pop into old phones. It's called Xfinity Mobile.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I gotta
But you
check
just
this
have to
out.
buy the phone. You can't bring in your own device.
No, you can bring your own device.
Really?
Yeah.
How much you pay?
Not if it's an iPhone X.
Not iPhone.
I know this because my father tried that.
Who's gonna use a burner as an iPhone?
Exactly. My father wanted to go to Xfinity.
It's sort of like a extravagance.
Oh yeah, no, now you can bring them.
Oh, well, you just throw this in most devices that I'm not
Yeah.
Right. So some users have resorted to buy. Everybody here has bought a burner phone. Most of you do it like several times a year. So you can use a burner phone, change all your phones. By the way, burner phone also exposes you that if they find that phone, it's actually even easier to take it over. Be aware of that.
Most burner phones are running shitty software, old software, not updated, and since you only turn it on once a year at DEF CON, we enjoy it. Thank you.
Hey, mine is updated to October, thank you.
There you go. That's our wisdom words right there. Time-based, one-time passwords. Google Authenticator. Google Authenticator, as of today, is probably the strongest form of two-factor authentication. There's a Microsoft one as well. There are locking features. The locking features in some applications, like Facebook has extra security. I don't know you, but I'm constantly attacked. And I keep getting, somebody's trying to reset your password, somebody's trying to reset your password. You can tell it, do not reset my password, right? Google has stuff that says somebody's trying to log in from here, do you allow it? Apple has that as well. It'll tell you somebody from here is trying to use your Apple ID. And Apple actually will not respond to you in 24 or 48 hours. That gives you a chance. That gives you a chance. Same thing with Coinbase. Coinbase gives you, I think it's 2 or 3 days, I believe, plus 2 emails plus TOTP. So in order for you to get that, dude, it's hard. So there must be a very high level target in order for you to bypass all that stuff. But for us, I would think it would suffice. So it's freezing, delaying, locking, burner phones. Well, this goes that most of us will work out this later on as we have been early adopters, but you should not link your SMS phone to your main email account. You should not do that. It's a single point of failure. They port the phone, you're done. Right? And actually, that's what I did, but not anymore. It's I ported. Right? So if you want to port my second one, good luck. I'll get alerts. I know what to do. I'll block it. Just buy another phone. That's it. You might get, who knows, whoever's messaging me or whatever, but you won't take my life away. Because that's what they're doing. Don't take your life away. or impersonate you. In fact, one of the campaigns that we did, I think it was in the Cryptocoin exchange, that after they took over the phone, then they fished. They did lateral move, lateral fishing. So they were sending, they were trying to fish the IT department and resetting and changing certain things so they could get it. So this is how sophisticated this can get. Tokens, YubiKey. I use the YubiKey as well. Obviously, if you ever use RSA, which was the original big token, and then port number away from carriers. So if you use, for example, Google Voice, it's almost impossible. They won't even talk to them. It's literally impossible. They won't even talk to them.
Now, so I use Google Voice. Google Voice is my primary number. What number would you recommend that I add to Google as my secondary factor? Not have one?
A number that is not public. Port 1 and port.
The way I got around that is I use my AT&T line, ported that to Google. And since the AT&T line wasn't registered on those digital numbers, you can make calls to banks and they'll still take it. So that's one way to run it. Get a burner from another carrier, and pay Google Voice, or then port it to Google Voice. You can use that as a second.
So
it's Google Voice, if they generate the phone number, then it's on the list somewhere as Google Voice.
So Google Voice is considered a landline carrier. It's part of number portability goes. And generally, it can take, I think, even like 2 or 3 weeks sometimes to port from a landline carrier. So there was a whole thing. If anybody still has grandfathered unlimited data on AT&T or Verizon, the one that's not throttled at 22 gigs, there's a big market for that. And some of these phone numbers are selling for as much as $2,000 on eBay. It varies depending on what the time and everything. So there's a website called Howard Forums, and Howard Forums still has a lot of really good insider telco stuff. So what I did at one point to sell this phone number without losing, to sell this line without losing my phone number, is I ported it out to Google Voice, and then I ported it back in again. And there's a small window where you can change the number once you port it out with Verizon in this case. So you can port in and out of Google Voice. There's still a risk. I don't know as much about the attack surface, but there are additional mitigations. They are still subject, though, as a telco or operating as an MVNO to the port out capability. So it is still possible to port out of Google Voice. But there's some extra protections on there. But then you have to make sure that your Google account isn't using a different phone number or isn't using the phone number that you're using to port out in order for secondary authentication.
That is a great point.
That is a great point. We look at this bigger picture, right? I think, what if I have on this device my Google Authenticator and then I lose this physical device? Okay, now backup codes. But what if there's a fire and I'm going to run out of my house at 2 in the morning? My backup codes are burned up and this are burned up. So then maybe you keep something in a safety deposit box at a bank, or you keep a secondary device and it has Google Authenticator or it has backup codes encrypted on it, and it is sitting in this safety deposit box. We've had these sorts of conversations. Haikuru is another one of our members. I don't think he's here today. Dirt is another one where we've had these kind of like high-level conversations. I would be very interested to see somebody who's more knowledgeable about this than I do a talk on, safely backing up your MFA. Because in many different situations, the greater the level of security, the more risk that you can lose everything and get locked out. If somebody, robs you, let's say you're traveling for work and you've got your laptop in the backpack, you've got your phone on you, and maybe you've got the backup codes at home, but how regularly are you physically printing backup codes and putting them into a fireproof safe? Like, how regularly is any of us really doing that?
What you do is you take your backup code and convert it to a phone number, put it in your address book, and then when your shit gets stolen, that's where you're going to find it.
Okay, so then how do you access your address book if you've been locked out of your Google account because they stole both your laptop and your phone at the same time and your Google Authenticator was on there?
Easy,
Because you didn't want to get.
Exactly.
So you pulled the phone number out of the equation. It used to be the phone number was the thing that you could restore if you go to a carrier. But now if you're not using your phone number, you're relying just on Google Authenticator or a physical token. Both many services don't allow multiple MFA tokens. So it's either just this Google Authenticator, it's only in your hand, and when it's gone,
Right.
then you've got backup codes. Right? So it's tough. It's a really, you can go down this path.
I printed my backup codes. That's what I did. I printed my backup codes. I know it's a pain in the ass, right? And you don't want to put it and forget about it, but he's right. You had to understand that you can lose your life out of this. I mean, the time that will take you to recuperate. And we're not adding identity theft to this. You add identity theft, so it's coming back plus a year. Because that's the average that it takes to come back from identity theft. Right?
I've heard some people say to print off your QR codes.
I did. That's what I did. I printed all my codes. And I put it in a secure place. Yes, correct. It has to, yes, that's what I did.
I have a suggestion. If you have a ledger or a transmitter, wallet, you can use it.
And you do what?
GPG encryption.
Oh.
And you can use that device itself also to authenticate yourself to a Git server or some service, and you can push all your codes.
Well, that will follow
So
the
can you upgrade? So just for practicality, because I'm really interested. We've got a lot of smart lines here. I'm really interested. This is something I've struggled with for months now. Like, so Rod, I mean, I guess it's a statistical low likelihood that you lose your physical device or Google Authenticator at the same time your backup codes.
Right.
But truly, let's say that your phone's charging in the other room and you run out of your house at night because there's a fire at 2 in the morning, assuming your code's at your house. Okay, where they?
That's the worst case scenario.
Everything is gone. Like, it's truly gone. So if there's a service maybe that can have, and then maybe this is a case that you do want to use Authy, and then you back it up, though, like the authentication into Authy, then you've got a Trezor sitting in the safety deposit box at a bank somewhere.
Yeah,
That's a ways away from your house.
You almost need to keep
Maybe
adding.
that's an option.
Backup, it's like backup, it never ends.
Practically though, how often, if it's something, every time you update a service, how often do you drive with your laptop to the bank and open the safety deposit box?
Also, safety deposit box requires the key, which is in the safe with firm out.
Right. So I mean, you have lots of control out your safety deposit box. So there's like a little bit more of a, maybe a hurricane looked really bad, flattens the bank. I don't know. I mean, we're potentially.
Well, that's actually a possible scenario in Florida where you had to leave and all of your stuff is in your house and your house is lost. Now you're locked of everything.
Yeah, but the tokens can be recovered.
Not exactly. Don't know.
So maybe an encrypted, truly, this is what I thought. Is maybe you have, most people, Gmail is the linchpin for your identity, right? Your Gmail account. So you remove all sorts of phone numbers out there, and it's only an authenticated code. You carry the primary Google Authenticator in your phone. And then maybe you have, if you can get flash drives that are like, bomb-proof, nuclear-proof flash drives. So maybe you have 2 of them, and you put them in different places. You store your Gmail account, your Google account, C for the authenticator on there, and then you have a passcode that's on there, and then you put it in Minecraft and forget it.
Hey, how about this?
Now we're lowering risk and we're lowering risk. That's what I was thinking about doing. Is that viable thing to have like a fireproof flash drive that you keep?
And now remember this: the backup codes bypasses everything.
Right. Well, so encrypt it with you use some sort of encryption on the flash drive,
With an
and
iron
no
key.
passcode to that flash drive, and just don't freaking forget.
I mean,
At one point you're gonna forget.
so you have an iron key and a safety deposit box,
Right.
and you give your parents a copy of the key.
Which they will lose and somebody will get it.
We're minimizing, at least like I think that the riskier attack surface, like the wider attack surface is somebody trying to phone you through SMS with a targeted attack versus all of these bad things happening at once. That seems like a reasonable, does it seem like a reasonable strategy? Does this make sense? What we're describing, iron key and a safety deposit box with encrypted,
Two things. Google will allow you to use YubiKeys, so
Yes.
you don't need a Trezor, you don't need an iron key or anything. You can just have YubiKey, and better yet, if you have an Android phone and a YubiKey Neo, it works over
That's
MSU.
secure.
Right. So stick YubiKey in your safety deposit box. You don't need all the fancy stuff.
Can you do?
But how are you gonna log in if you put it on the deposit box?
What was that?
No, you can get 2
Oh,
of them.
you get 2?
Yeah.
You can associate more than one YubiKey with your Gmail account.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can associate a YubiKey and Google Authenticator. So if
Oh, yeah. There you go.
you have your backup codes, you have YubiKey and you have
Right.
How much is the safety box?
As long as you have as long as it's two factors.
Like 60
Well,
bucks a year.
that's technically multi-factor, but you also have to type your password.
Yeah.
So you have to read, right?
No, but you only need to use 2 to get into your account, right?
No, but it's challenge response.
Okay. So if somebody who's not you goes in and sees this new YubiKey, or say like you're an activist, or you're in a country where there's like, people who are being targeted, for doing legitimate things, and somebody acquires the YubiKey, do they need some sort of a passcode? Would it be better just encrypted on an iron key?
No, they need your Google account password. So the process is you log in using your password, and then it pops up saying, hey, using YubiKey, tap it.
Right.
So just make sure to put the password on a sticky note with your email address.
Yeah.
Attached to the YubiKey.
So why is this
Hey, listen, this is-
worse than using an encrypted flash drive that's physically resilient?
Well, going back to the backup codes bypass everything.
Right, so if you receive the backup codes, it's an encrypted drive that's a physically resilient drive that can survive a fire.
What if you forget?
Okay. Yeah, but in this case, you don't need the password.
Right. But
I think
going
that's
back to the
more
backup
like-
codes, do we store our social security cards in a super secure place?
Yeah.
In order to
Your social security card is in your house.
So actually,
Forget about your social security.
Right, I think your point is very valid.
it's quite unfortunate, but you can get a new
It never ends.
you can get a new birth certificate just by knowing, those questions like what year model car did you have, and
We're not gonna explore that.
Well, what you do is you run your
You
site,
have to
and
store
you
that
get a
somewhere
birth
that
certificate,
can
and
be
you order another
compromised.
social security card, and then that's it. Then you go back and get a driver's license and say, you lost the driver's license, you need a new one, and now you've actually taken over somebody's.
But I mentioned for the password to the encrypted to the YubiKey or the YubiKey account or the account that's been connected to the YubiKey or the encrypted flash drive. At that point, you could just use what's they call steganography or stenography, just like hide it somewhere in plain sight. But then if you forget where that is, the likelihood is so low.
I do remember when the whole thing was about the most complex passwords. How many of you forgot it? I mean, I came up with the most amazing passwords.
Yes.
It was a one-time password.
Yes, exactly.
I will never remember it again. So, yeah, so remember, we're security professionals, sometimes humanity goes against security.
Well, and
people can't just remember.
Well, those folks also who would maybe want to use cryptocurrency in the case that of an untimely death, to be able to have others access your cryptocurrency and pass it on to your family, that's another factor to think about here.
Yes.
LastPass supports if you trust LastPass.
What, sir?
LastPass, the password managers, you have the ability to, like, when you die, like, you can pass them on.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay. Huh.
I actually had a conversation with someone this week about it. This is what is the recommended thing from all financial advisors, etc. Take a USB key, slap a fucking zip password on it, because the people that are going to find it are obviously not technical. You tell one person the password, or you tell your lawyer, write down the password in the fucking note, it doesn't matter. Take that key, throw it over the fucking water fence into the water. Now, the only way that box is getting open is with your valid password. So you got your lawyer, your valid death certificate, bam, all your shit is now recoverable. That is the legal process to do it. It is stored in the bank, it is safe, it is encrypted, and it is how I do it.
So hopefully the lawyer doesn't put that password on sticky notes.
My lawyer has the password.
Have you guys watched Black Mirror?
Yes.
My lawyer.
Okay, you remember the episode when they put the conscience of the husband or their boyfriend into the toy or the cyber, I guess. You see that episode?
Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, that's a Black Mirror episode where he says, it's not in my memory that I'm a coward, for example. Or I'm not supposed to act like this based on what's implanted. Maybe they would remember the passwords. Right? That's a good example. That's a great, everybody should watch it, by the way. This is very well researched. Very, very well researched. I mean, I'm addicted to it. Some of the scenarios that are in Black Mirror is things that I said, oh my God, what will happen if they have been able to basically put it together? It's pretty amazing. Okay, anything else before we let our very own noobs take over the floor and talk about the crypto market? All right.
All right, I'm getting the cryptocurrency talk. All right, for the record, I don't own any fucking cryptocurrency. I actually might own something on some hard drives. They're in my garage. I'll never fucking look for them. So, camera.
Yeah.
And kids, just in case you didn't see the kids, I thought I'd point those out.
All right, so cryptocurrency, it is a bubble. I don't know. Let's have a discussion about it. Hopefully, how many of you guys have made money with crypto? Haven't any of those? All right. How many people have lost money? Wow, that's actually surprising.
Maybe some folks aren't raising their hand.
Well, I mean, it's fine, right? So the problem with Bitcoin is this, right? If you have a Luddite father like I do, why is the price $9,000? Why is the price $19,000? What makes the price of what it is, right? It's driven by the last transaction price. It's called mark to market. This is how Enron happened to lose all their money. This is how, CMOs and your debt and your mortgage and all that, went under. The other thing to look for is a fraud rate. Once it gets over 10%, it's going to crash. Once again, we know this from the housing market and 2000 and when Obama got elected and all that stuff. That's what the economy does. Once there's fraud, why is there fraud? Because there's money. It's an unregulated market, and I don't know. What do you guys want to know about it? I mean, my background is in finance. I don't have any cryptocurrency. I've launched 2 cryptocurrencies. If anyone has ever bought Dongcoin or Defcoin and paid anything for it, I'm sorry, you're a sucker. I'll give you 1 million of them right now.
You laugh, but I made a lot of money on Dogecoin.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of stupid, but it's a joke.
I mean, I may have.
I'm not the IRS. I don't care.
So, one thing I'll just say, as a gentleman standing up here now, he's been a great contributor to our cryptocurrencies channel, and a lot of us, very hackers don't have as much finance background, so he's added some good commentary.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of new faces here today. Anybody who'd like to join our Slack, it's really awesome. Active community, come see me, see Rod. We can add you in, come and meet, it's good enough for us. So come join that. You're there. One thing I'll ask you about, tell us about shorts. I don't know much about how that works.
Awesome. So there's 2 ways to buy and sell. We'll use stocks because they're an actual real thing. If I want to buy 1,000 shares of Microsoft, for every buyer, there's a seller, right? Somebody's got to sell this share. Same thing with cryptocurrency unless you're mining it. So going short means that I'm selling it before I've even owned it. So what I did was, now they have derivatives, which is basically like, think of it as watching somebody play blackjack and betting on whether he's going to win or not. It has nothing to do with him. It's a side bet. That's what derivatives are. So the options market has 2 Bitcoin derivatives. One is a 1-coin contract and one is a 5-coin contract. They're settled in cash. Once again, it's a side bet. It has nothing to do with Bitcoin except for a maturity date, which is some point out in the future, and a price. So you're betting that it's either going to be above or below. I obviously betted below. I shorted mine at 19,000 and I covered my position when it hit 10,000. So it's basically I sell it. Now let's say it was 19,000 and it went up to 30,000. Well, you can be sure that my broker is going to call me and say, by the way, you have a margin call. You owe us 11 grand. So that's how shorting works, right? You're not expecting, it's kind of like craps, right? You're playing the no pass. You're expecting everyone to lose.
A good example is the movie The Big Short.
The Big Short is the greatest movie. I highly recommend it. If you don't actually really care about the mortgage and all that, just watch the cameo scenes, right? They have Margot Robbie in a bathtub explaining what collateral mortgage options and debt is. Fantastic. The best explanation I've ever seen. It's called The Big Short. It's about 3 or 4 groups of people that were going through the mortgage boom, and they asked the same question that most people are asking. Why is this house worth $1 million? It's in the middle of the hood. Why are all of a sudden people getting mortgages for $500,000 with no documentation, right? You can't sustain that, right? So I guess right now we're looking at, and this is as of right now. Let's see what
coin cap is at 455.55 billion US dollars in cryptocurrency. Where did that wealth come from? I mean, we all mine coins, we all have coins, but what decides that that's the market cap, right? It's only the last price in which everybody's position is marked for. Now, there are certain people that are Bitcoin billionaires, and there's one 19-year-old who's a Bitcoin millionaire who said everyone should be a Bitcoin millionaire. It's very easy to become a millionaire on paper. Problem is, now you have to sell it. Traditionally, in a market, you can just put all your stuff up for sale, and it's based on things like financials, intrinsic value. Intrinsic value is, for instance, your car. The intrinsic value of your car is the rubber on the tires, the metal, the seats, the electronics, the engine, the gasoline. You know, if you take all that stuff apart, you're going to have $1,000 or whatnot, right? That means that's the lowest your price of your car should ever be. Well, there is none with these coins, right? It's all based on speculation. Now, there was some people who were trying to tie it to the dollar, which was a really good idea, except the problem is they didn't have enough dollars to back up their money. The United States used to have this problem. That's why we were on the gold standard. Anybody who's ever been to Fort Knox knows there's no gold. And we changed to it, and now we're on a floating currency, right? It's backed by the full faith and government of the United States, right? It says here, dollar bill, in God we trust, some of us, but this is legal tender for all debits, public and private. And there's a picture of George Washington. You can change him to a mushroom. But, I mean, this is actual currency, right? This could be spent on something, right? So this has $1 of value, right? I could go to McDonald's and get myself a medium French fry, right? That's how currency has value on what you can spend it on. Who's bought anything with Bitcoin besides altcoins? All right, and that wasn't drugs. I mean, just in case, you know, Rod was going through the history lesson. Bitcoin was originally used, I would say 95% by criminals up until probably 2015. Safe to say. That's what drove the market. So all these people like that are becoming rich, it's all stolen gains anyway. And what you did was you took your dollars, you converted it to PayPal, you sent it to somewhere, then you got Liberty Reserve, then you got Bitcoin, then you buy Liberty Reserve again. If you wanted to be slick, you could buy web money, but most of the time you didn't because it was Russian. And then, you know, you would transfer your Liberty Reserve back to dollars, and that's how you used to be able to clean cash. Liberty Reserve did close down. If you do have... They might have, but at that point they already got raided, and you know, once you have a gun that's already been fired and entered in the legal system, the gun's no useful anymore. So,
what do you think about Ripple?
Ripple is going to go to $7.
What?
Ripple, I heard, is going to $7, based on actual Wall Street people telling me this bullshit. You know, it popped up to $2 and change. It dropped pretty much every currency market. So they're all the exact same chart, which now is a problem because the only way to trade it, how many people did technical trading, right? Looking at moving averages and all that other good stuff. Well, thanks to this rise and crash, well, all your averages are now screwed. So you guys all have to start your charting again from the start. So you have a currency that you can't track via charting or any technical method. You have an asset that's not actually backed by anything besides math, mystery, and electricity, hopefully that you didn't pay for. You have tokenization of something that's worth $455 billion that you can't buy anything.
But what do you mean? There's other stuff in many places that are taking Bitcoin these days.
Are they?
They just stopped because of crash. Amazon was late to the start and holding them
Bitcoin Miami, the #1 Bitcoin conference, ain't accepting Bitcoin. You know what? If I'm going to go buy a bag of pot from a pot dealer and he doesn't smoke pot, chances are I'm walking out, right? There's a problem there, right? You don't go to a Jamaican restaurant. If there's no Jamaicans in the kitchen, don't eat there. certain things, right? If you're going to have a culture, you have to embrace the foundation of it. You can't have a Bitcoin conference and be like, we're not accepting Bitcoin. You know, that's what I call a zero faith indicator. I don't know. I wasn't going anyway.
$1,000 last minute was like 2,000 before.
Well, I mean, if they charge it in Bitcoin, the price could change several $100 a day. And I mean, there used to actually be people who did that. I mean, instant transactions back when Bitcoin was like $400, and we were all freaking out. But you know, I made money in Bitcoin way back in the day. I sold 10,000 Bitcoin for 30 cents. Took that money, got a bar at DEF CON. Everybody got drunk. I don't feel bad because I still think whoever bought that overpaid. I mean, right now, I think that the problem also is that Main Street, right? You know, we are all considered Main Street. I'm considered Main Street. I lost my Wall Street title a long time ago. Right? Wall Street, those are the guys that are ruining the economy, you know, doing backroom shady deals, etc. But you know what? They're in the know, right? They know what's going to happen. It's unfair, but you know, when you get to be a bank, you get to make rules. You know. Now we're getting down to just normal people that are trying to buy this crap, right? How do you buy Ether? Well, you got to go buy this, and you got to go buy this, and you got to go transfer this, and you got to go do this. At this point, you know, you have a float of 3 days. You have a currency that's moving around, and then you get someone who thought they were going to buy Bitcoin at, you know, whatever, and now turns out they may have overspent by a few $1,000, or maybe they bought it last week, then they got twice as much than what they expected. You know, it can work that way.
You can buy Coinbase there in a credit card.
Yes, you can.
And you can secure that price.
Certain credit cards are not even allowing purchase of cryptocurrency anymore.
That's the problem also, is your credit card won't allow it, right? Yeah. In many states in the United States, legal weed, cash only. Credit cards won't do it, right? You know, there's a big thing when you call it a currency, right? Banks, our money laws are very, very strict and very, very unique. And to call something a currency, at the best, it's tokenization, right? Because it's backed by the full faith of the internet. And to that, I just say Rule 34. If you guys want to follow that, folks, you're on your own. As far as the SMS stuff, I mean, you should use multi-factor. NIST is saying get rid of SMS. Also, how many of you guys use multi-factor on the same device that you're actually accessing it with? I know you guys are doing it on your Coinbase accounts. Yeah, that's not multi-factor. Just saying. So a lot of this stuff, right, that people are saying, you know, I protect myself with two-factor authentication, multi-factor. No, you don't, dude. You have all your stuff on your phone. You're logging in from your phone. The same thing, right? RSA released their own tokenization for Windows, right? That's when we ripped them out because, yeah, you shouldn't have that. As far as keyloggers and everything like that, malware's been doing that for years. So just launch a Metasploit module, hook the driver for the keys and keyboard, and it doesn't matter. You know, you're reading the keyboard buffer. You can do that with a phone. Apple actually makes an app that will allow you to do that with an Apple TV and show where you all click and everything like that. Yeah, it's built into our devices. Android is obviously going to have more problems with it because they're an open system. You know, Google allows people just to upload stuff, whereas Apple does not. But probably also why there's less problems in the Apple
a lot
apps.
easier to sideload applications on an Android device.
Yeah, with ADB, it's awesome.
Also, with the SMS reading attacks.
So SMS.
Apple, you can't have anything that's not Apple read your SMS.
Well,
in practice.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing about SMS is bullshit, right? Our friend over here who knows a lot about cell phones will be able to tell you the genesis of it. Basically, the reason why they have 160 characters is because someone noticed that there was a packet being sent that had 160 characters that weren't being used, and we're like, hey, let's send short messages. This is great. It costs us nothing, yet we can charge our consumers 25 cents per message. This is amazing. We're going to make money. So that's how it works. SMS is not encrypted. Once you're inside the S7 or you've broken the A5/1 encryption for GSM, or you download the rainbow tables from the 4 people that are seeding it, or you get from the hard drive at DEF CON, you know, you'll be able to read everybody's. Now, some of it is you have to acquire signals and such, but if you look at a software-defined radio that's $20, and you were to, look in the 900 megahertz range, maybe 800 for a control channel, not saying you should, but also you can get a Blade RF, you can also read the 2.4, and you can see all the other signals that your phone is sending out. Not really encrypted, because the FCC says you can't.
So HackRF should go even higher.
Yeah.
But,
HackRF, you can.
The Blade RF is the one that can do.
Well,
Blade RF has.
And keep in mind, one is can only send or receive at the same time. So.
Oh yeah, that's the great thing about stealing SMSs is you don't have to actually put anything out into the world. It's just read only. So just like any other wireless signal intelligence, you scoop up the signal, you analyze the signal, and then you profit. And if you want to learn how to use that, download GNU Radio. It's also an excellent experience in compiling real software.
Oh, he actually gave a talk in HackMiami where we were tracking actual planes,
Yes,
right?
yes. So you said what about technology that's broken, right? This S7 thing sounds like a big problem, considering that all of our cell phones have the same vulnerability. Well, the FAA has decided that they're going to install ADS-B in all these airplanes. And that is now so that you don't have to use traditional radar, but ADS-B, for those who don't know, is basically a giant beacon on an airplane.
I read a news article that now they're interested in taking a look at that further.
You can also
They probably should.
You can also get, so one of the other things you can do this with just one of the RTL SDR, you need two. You get a directional antenna, and then you get another one pointed outward, you can make a passive radar. And this guy somewhere in I don't know, the Netherlands or Sweden or something, but he came up with, he wrote a paper where he actually was able to identify different types of passenger jets based on their signatures.
Oh, yeah.
So you can just sit there with an ADS-B receiver in one of these and train a neural net to just progressively get better, detecting what kind of plane.
Right.
And that right there is the basis for sonar technology too, except sound.
Right, we do have a gentleman here that actually gave a talk about how actually possibly insert ghost planes into actual radios.
And again, with that summation is ADS-B coupled with TCAS. TCAS will, traffic collision avoidance system, can cause planes to actually take action without the pilot's control. So you can see how.
Well, the problem for this scenario, and this is a hypothetical scenario, don't do this. Don't do any part of this, like any part. So if you ever flown into Washington, D.C., most of you will fly into Reagan because, US Air has 6 flights today. Right before you land in Reagan, you fly over a park where people are flying drones. Well, if you put an ADS-B receiver on one of those drones, put it out of a light, strong metal like tungsten, it's going to go up, the plane's going to come, and one of two things is going to happen. Either your traffic avoidance collision system is going to kick into gear, but chances are it's not because your droid's about the size of a bird and with much less of a radar signature of it, so it's going to get sucked into the engine.
Well, TCAS will look at ADS-B information and determine where.
But your drone is not sending out ADS-B. It's reading it as a beacon. So think of it as you're basically attaching a homing signal on every single airplane. If you're going to use surface-to-air missiles, that's a pretty good thing to know.
So, and actually, I gave a talk last year at the HackMiami for the ADS-B. Theoretically, the problem with that is you could take a Raspberry Pi Zero, which has the capability of broadcasting out over ADS-B frequencies, and you can actually pre-program a payload on it that will actually send out an ADS-B packet.
Correct. You can also do it on a cell phone with the USB.
Sure.
And if the cell phone were putting everything through Tor, then you could have a lot of destructive element sitting in your underwear at home, and Tor wasn't being actively recorded, you get away with it.
And for getting an airport to just suddenly divert traffic, they did used to do that back in the 60s and the 70s. My uncle used to joke about it. When I was a kid, they would take a helium balloon and see aluminum foil and just let it go by the airport.
Absolutely, and I can tell you from personal experience. Once again, do as I say, not as I do. But airports don't check for drugs. They don't check for a lot of shit. They're looking for explosives and explosives only. It's the only thing they're looking for.
And those federal, FAA auditors, yearly, that'll bring assembled AR-15s, M16s, hand grenades, pistols, right through.
The report was done at Fort Lauderdale Airport. What they did was they had, side-mounted machine guns and went like this, and it turned out that it was just a white silhouette, and the black on black kind of made the machine guns hard to find. So, general or
Yeah, so cryptocurrency.
yes.
Would you recommend someone and probably retirement account to invest in cryptocurrency?
No. No, cryptocurrency is not considered a retirement investment vehicle, right? You're going to use it, it's purely speculative. It should be no more than 20% of your investment, and once you put that money into the market, you consider it lost.
What do you think about Jake Paul and Money Matching the Game, like Tony Robbins, like the people he gets advice from in there, like Ray Dalio and some of those other guys? Or do they basically index fund, what he's saying for investment?
So,
And they're not my, like, this other disclaimer, they're not.
It's okay. Also, I should also let you guys know that one of the brokerage firms I worked for was right out of Wall Street. So, Jordan Belfort, he actually said that cryptocurrency was going to shoot up and then drop down to zero. And he is a master in price manipulation and market manipulation. If he wasn't, on parole, he would have a field day in this market. I promise you that. But yeah, it's index funds. I mean, if you look at the market right now, past performance is no indicator of future performance. But the market kind of is going like this. Right? Because it's based on things like financials, right? Wealth building, right? These companies are getting bigger, they're stronger, they're more multinational, their assets are growing, they're just generally larger, right? They're generating more income, and because of that, based on the financials, right? The market is doing well, right? These companies are getting bigger, they're doing more business, everything's more global. I think index funds are awesome. The problem with index funds is if the market drops, your money drops. But this is also the herd mentality, that if the market drops, there's probably a lot more people that are screwed than you. So I carry index funds. I also carry international funds and short cap.
So what's your golden standard for retirement? Because I know Big Al.
How old are you?
Like weatherproof investment they talked about.
What do you think?
There is no weatherproof investment.
He's at there.
The only weatherproof investment is the one that I'm going to make when I rob you.
Do you follow any of Ray Dalio stuff? Like I heard about his book principles on Andrew Contreras.
I mean, I read the underlying theories right now. I mean, the analysts they have opinions like everyone. Half of them are right, half of them are wrong. Actually, a really great stock scam was back in the early days was you'd send 100 emails out. 50 saying this stock's going to go up, 50 saying this stock's going to go down. Then you send 50 emails out, 25 saying this is going up, 25 saying this is going down. By the time you got to 10, you win. They'll give you everybody your money because you just gave them 5 predictions in a row.
What do you think of the book Random Walk Down Wall Street?
I haven't read it. I haven't read very many recent Wall Street books. I switched from securities to information security and no longer tried to generate wealth. I learned how to rob it instead. Which is kind of a well-generating thing. But I mean, this is important too, because think about it, right? Rod said it. The have-nots and the haves, right? If my neighbor has a Ferrari, I'm going to covet that Ferrari. I drive a POS car. My neighbor's not really coveting my POS car, right? When people do well, other people want to do well as well. Also, now, this even goes up to national strategy, right? China is a country that says it's better to steal than to innovate because it's cheaper, faster, and better, right? Same thing with criminals, Yeah, you made a lot of money and you're now a Bitcoin billionaire, but I could rob you. And you might be pretty good at Bitcoin, but I'm really good at robbing. So, I mean, how do you want to play it, right? I imagine that there's also going to be a lot of people that are going to get screwed by taxes, right? One thing that Uncle Sam likes money. And you know what taxes are to Uncle Sam? Free money. I mean, not for us, we have to pay them. But I imagine that a lot of this is going to be very, very interesting. Also, because A, Bitcoin is the official currency of mostly cyber criminals, who are the people that originally held the original mined coins for all those years. Al Capone, what did they catch him for? Tax evasion, right? That's how all these guys get it. There's a lot of things you can do. Many of them legal, many of them illegal. There's a lot of illegal things you can do. But if you pay taxes on your illegal gains, they kind of look the other way for a little while. Only a little while. Eventually they will arrest you, but, after the check cashes.
Wow.
So, Ripple going to what the price?
I heard from somebody on Wall Street who asked me, hey, do you know about Ripple, so-and-so? From what I understand, it's an interbank currency. Works kind of like the Fed, except I would say the Fed is probably what they're going to use and not some tokenization, considering that the Fed has been, the Fed for how many years? And they... Oh yeah, I'll tell you right out. I actually closed all my positions, so I know I own 0 position. But typically, if I was going to give a talk at DEF CON, if I was going to talk about how great it was, I would buy before. I'm going to talk about how shitty it is. I'm going to sell before. And the reason why is because it's an unregulated market.
There's an article probably a couple weeks ago talking about how when Bitcoin went from $200 to $1,000, there was one person who manipulated that.
Yep. We can make everyone a Bitcoin billionaire right now by just doing a cross, which is a exchange that's not at market price. You can do it with stock, right? If price of a stock is 35, you can say, all right, I'm going to sell to this guy for 34, but he's going to buy 100,000 shares, right? Those are also put onto the tape. Bitcoin is a blockchain technology, right? Not a coin. All blockchains are is basically, an audit ledger that you can't go back and edit, which is also why all the audit companies are probably never going to go back and support them, because you kind of have to go back to make adjustments. That's for accounting and whatnot. There's a term called period or timeliness. If you're into accounting and whatnot, you have to recognize revenue in the right quarter, etc. But yeah, I think that it's easy to manipulate, right? I'll sell you a Bitcoin at $1 million. Whether or not you pay me, it doesn't matter, because we'll just write the transaction to the tape. It's an anonymous currency. It's 2 numbered accounts. All of a sudden, people are like, "Oh my God, someone paid X amount of dollars," and that's how it happens, right? Same way, we can crash it the same way too.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Because the price of a Bitcoin is only based on one thing. Yep. Bitcoin is based on only one thing. What is the last price transaction? Wow. I'll sell you 100 Bitcoin for a quarter now, and we'll ruin the economy.
Right.
Not really the economy. We shouldn't ruin the economy, but unfortunately, people are stupid and they put a bunch of money in worthless stuff. But
what?
Oh yeah.
This is no different than
2008.
Beanie Babies at McDonald's during '98, right? The same thing. I drove around at like 5 of these McDonald's looking for that stupid turtle. It's the exact same thing, right? People are collecting and they're hoarding these Beanie Babies, like, oh, these are going to be worth something. I'm like, okay. And then they opened up shops to sell out their stuff, but it's the same thing, right? It's whatever. The asset is treated as property, and as such, a property's price is only worth what someone is going to pay for it. And it's the last price reported. So, and because Bitcoin is a public ledger, yeah, you pretty much can manipulate it right there. I hope you all do. I don't have any Bitcoin in it, so I have no skin.
Any other questions?
So
Because
technically,
you
if
don't
me and
believe
a
in it, or
friend,
is it because you're not allowed to buy it?
I'm allowed to buy it.
Okay, just checking.
Anyone can. But I can't see trading real money for it. That's it. It's my own thing. Yeah.
so technically, me and a friend wanted to just go in and trade Bitcoins to each other at 25 cents.
That's what a Bitcoin's worth.
What a Bitcoin's worth.
Last price.
Who's determining the price of a Bitcoin, right? You can sell it for whatever you want.
That's the other thing. The people that are making the prices, how many exchanges what is the average? How many exchanges are in the average? And isn't there one price to where they're not taking one of the exchanges into account? 'Cause
They're not taking Korea into account because it was always overpriced.
Okay, well.
But most exchanges, though, you can't just go in and name a price. Like there's buy side and sell side, and there's the order.
Yeah, and that's what they're doing.
You can't just go in and hit the order that's like for a penny. You have to go. It's going to give you the best price.
That's if you're doing it through a major exchange. However, if you're doing it through a minor exchange or one of those.
Like Ether Delta, yeah, you can pick.
Right.
Yeah.
But when they quote like the average price for a token, they're going by an average of like many exchanges. Most of them are the big exchanges.
So I mean, there's actually a good way to make money. It's called arbitrage.
Yeah.
So basically, site 1 is selling it for $6,000, and site 2 is buying it for 6 and change. Run it through as many transactions.
Some people do that, but eventually like it balances out.
It gets down to pennies, and a lot of people that make money do it in currencies, in currency swaps. The people that lose money try to do it everywhere else, right? It's hard to do with the stock. But, yeah, diversify your bonds, Wu-Tang Financial.
Any other questions? Today was epic. Yeah. Thank you. We miss you here, man. We miss you.